Hi guys, I'm Raymond Silver, also known as Stingray FPV, and I'm joined here today with Sean van Sommeran, and he is the executive director of the Pelagic Shark Research Foundation. How you doing today, Sean?
Good talking to you.
It's real sad that we're kind of meeting after this like tragic death of this surfer, but could you kind of elaborate on the sharks species and migratory patterns that are visible here in the Monterey Bay?
Yeah, context and perspective is really important. If you watch a lot of the cursory news, there's not a lot of information available. The state parks is going to be releasing a press release about this. So a lot of the news is pretty, cursory. And the impression a lot of people are getting is that all these sharks just showed up this year, right? It's kind of like Groundhog Day. It's been like that for a long, long time. Where there'll be a lot of reporting about a situation scenario like this one where we've had all these sharks move in 2015, and then every season it's reported almost like a new thing, like, oh, there's sharks off Seacliff. It's like, well, yeah, what would be news if you sent up a drone one year or an aircraft and didn't see any, because you see them all the time every year. That's not unusual. I think most people close know that, but people in Wisconsin or Florida or far away and wide may not be up to speed, and the impression a lot of people are getting is that a big fleet of these great white sharks have moved into the area, and there's no long-term perspective. So Monterey Bay, it's been well known for large sharks, as I've said, since before the days of whaling. Of course, sharks are potentially hazardous. We get several attacks every year, and we have for the past 3 decades. That's common. What's rare is injuries. In this case, a fatality, which is even rarer and unfortunate. It's going to, generate a lot of concern, interest as well. And so,
when was the last time that there was a shark-related death in this area?
No, not in this area. There's been a number of fatalities. A woman lost her leg there, nearby there, not far from there, between beer cans and sand dollar, in 1960. And we've had numerous attacks since then, non-injurious things. Most of the attacks are happening like in Marina, in recent history, 2012, 11, etc. We had a fatality in 1980 off Pacific Grove. You can go back further in time, in the early 50s, 1952. Someone was killed right outside the breakwater in Monterey. Again, the place has been famous for large sharks and shark attacks, for quite a while. This is a new thing. It's kind of bad timing. It's never a good time for a shark attack. And we got the COVID thing going. And then the interpretation is that we got this big group of sharks that moved in just real recently, that they're multiplying and they're larger than when they first moved in.
Right.
And it just, I've not seen any evidence, of that. With my organization was literally the first ones to see them, identify them and announce their presence. And then immediately we've had an established long-term monitoring program for sharks in Monterey Bay, and white sharks in particular. Like I say, I've tagged over 160 of those.
Okay.
We published papers and all that stuff. Sharks moved in 2015. It's the same numbers, same generational category. Before 2015, we saw sharks. We did helicopter tours. I've done aerial surveys for decades. It's the same subset of sharks. We never didn't see sharks. What's new are these juveniles. They don't attack people. These 8-foot and under sharks are fish eaters. I mean, you can get bit if you try. A guy was bitten off Manhattan Pier 2014, but he was wrapped in, the shark had fishing line on it. Guys had it on a fishing rod at the time. And they, a group of swimmers swam through that, got it wrapped on him, and one of the smaller sharks bit him. Almost all the shark attacks are the 4-meter, 12-foot, 10-foot over.
Okay.
And that's the size. They get a little more ambitious. The other thing to keep in mind is as these sharks mature, they graduate out of the area. That's a nursery rookery area. It's for kids, sharks, right?
What are the age ranges for the sharks that are around this area?
Yearlings up to like 5, 6, 7 years old. They grow really quickly at first, and then it slows down. It's actually described as indeterminate age growth. They seem to keep growing, The largest of the sharks get, 7 meters, a little over 20 feet long, 5,000 pounds. Those are almost all females that get that large.
Right.
They live for over 70 years. So it's an animal that's built to last. Big ones show up in later summer, early winter, and then start leaving the coast in March, April, and May. And about this time, the bulk of them are in the far open offshore.
Okay.
That gives the little ones free range up around the coast. But definitely there's more sharks in Monterey Bay because of this influx of juvenile, than there was 20 years ago. But it doesn't mean population growth. What it means is the center of gravity is shifting north, right? So down in the far south of their former range in Baja, there's a reciprocal absence and diminishment of abundance. They're still in Baja, but down in the further southern end of the range, there's an absence that kind of correlates, the way I'm seeing it, nicely with their movement north. So it's not like they're expanding and growing in population north, southwest. No, the center of gravity for these juveniles are simply moving north. The adults seem to be doing the same thing that they've always done. There's not been a detectable or demonstrated documented increase in abundances at Guadalupe Island, Ani Nuevo Island, Farallon Islands, Tamales Bay, etc. But there are more smaller sharks north of their former range.
Do you think that the steady migration kind of north of their range has anything to do with the rising ocean temperatures?
Yeah, exactly. I think these are basically just oceanic and current conditions. I've been asked quite a bit, is it global warming? I honestly don't know.
Right.
What I can tell is that these currents do move around, oceanic conditions become inviting, and there are records of these sharks in the past, juveniles, being in Monterey Bay. But it's a sporadic, periodic thing, and I think it's probably the simplest answer is that it's the currents and oceanographic conditions that prompt them to move up or down the coast. The really tragic thing about this latest fatality with Ben is he was just doing his thing. He wasn't doing anything negligent. People surf there all the time, and it was just like 1960 someone got bit there. What's been frustrating and making me bite my nails a lot is over the past couple of years, like I say, 2015, the site was pretty deserted. It was just us with our boats and our drones checking it out, helicopters flying overhead, taking their tourists there to look at them. A little bit different interpretations there, eye of the beholder. But it's pretty stable, It's not changed any since 2015. On good weather days, you'll see more, and on bad weather days, you see less. A lot of it's basically when the surface water warms up, the sharks all pop up to the surface.
Okay.
The description of the sharks will sway back and forth between prehistoric homicidal super predator to misunderstood baby fluffy shark,
right.
and neither of those are accurate. It is what it is. It's a big shark that eats large things, and if you're not careful, you can get hurt.
Yeah. So should people be staying out of the water at this time?
Yes. When the lifeguards ask you to do that, you should do that. There are situations, they're going to make signs and stuff to make it a little more easier and intuitive, right? Dummy friendly. But you don't swim out to the sharks.
Yeah, of course. But like people going out, exercising, swimming or kayaking or paddleboarding or surfing in open water conditions, that should all be avoided if all possible, right?
Well, certainly with the quarantine going on, and the enforcement people are working real hard just to keep things, okay, and no mischief kind of thing, and for their own safety is right. So that's a separate kind of thing. You should always just obey the law as best you can.
Right.
And other than that, there's people surfing today in certain places up the coast or whatever, and I hope no one gets bit. What I recommend, when you can go into the water and there's no restrictions to it, come to terms with the facts. It's the ocean. That's the last place you want to go to be careless. I don't care how nice the weather is, right? the people are statistics for boating accidents and accidental drownings, people falling off the cliffs. It said those are all rising at steeper rates, and everyone's talking about shark population increase. The humans are increasingly using the coastal waterways, and the word gets out the sharks are in a certain. Everybody goes to go look at them. No ill will intended, but it's just that chaos factor, and it only takes one in a dozen to make the whole group dirty. And it's just not why. So come to terms with it and decide whether is it worth it to you or not. And then aside from that, just general safety, surf for the buddy, be prepared. Just general stuff. And sharks are usually the last thing to have to worry about. There's all kinds of stuff that can go wrong, so be prepared.
Okay.
On top of that, and aside from that, don't swim there's a group of sharks. I see sharks. Look, there's 2 or 3 of them. Oh, these are those baby sharks. They're harmless. They're not in feeding mode. Let's all go. And the kids are out there with their inner tubes and stuff. There's bigger sharks in amongst those, right? We're not talking 20-footers, 15-footers. A 10, 12-footer is a potentially dangerous animal. And there's all kinds of things that can change your behavior. He chases a seal, hits a seal escapes. He's orbiting around looking. And something else comes into that perimeter.
Yep.
He's got to check it out.
Absolutely. And paddleboarders, surfers look like seals.
Right. Or get out of here. I'm fishing. I'm hunting. Is this thing looking for what I just trying to buy? Just trying to steal my food? That's kind of I made that up.
Right on.
But but these are hypotheticals that you never know, but those are all the things to consider. So, there's little baby sharks. They're harmless. They're vulnerable, right? They come right up to the boat and look. But there's other ones that come through there as well.
Okay.
And, we're talking 1,000-pound animals.
Yeah.
That can hurt you by accident. And, it's neither baby shark nor prehistoric monster.
Okay. So then what about surfing at the popular surf spots that are within the kelp beds, like Steamer's Lane and Pleasure Point?
Yeah, there's never been an attack there. There's been a few sightings I know of. I've heard rumors of attacks. I don't really categorize it as until it's confirmed with photos kind of thing.
Right.
And I get several of those every year where they email me the photos or I arrange to meet with them and look at it. We've had fake shark attacks as well. Amy Larson at Channel 8 did an investigation on a guy who reported this big elaborate shark attack, had a surfboard on sale on eBay. I went and examined the board, and there was flip-flop footprints and bicycle tracks and everything but any teeth marks or anything like that. And he admitted that it was fake. So you get that thrown in there too. There is a I won't call it a lobby, but there's an interest group that wants them delisted. They want them, not protected, so that they can fish for them for recreational purposes, right? And then to justify that, they're saying, well, these things are dangerous. They're invading our beaches. My baby could be out there right now on a little inner tube or something, just being carefree and happy. But there's these sea things in the ocean that make it dangerous. That's what they're doing in Australia.
But it's their home, not ours. But circling back to that point was so most likely these white sharks aren't going to venture into the kelp bed areas that are.
Well, they haven't so far at the surf spots you mentioned, like Steamer Lane and stuff. There's been a couple sightings. There's a beach closure near the wharf a couple of years back. It's not unheard of, but there's been any attacks. In terms of kelp, sharks will go into kelp. I've been saying that for 20 years. We've seen it.
Okay.
And the analogy I use is like a big grizzly bear. When he's just walking around, he's not barging through the brush, right? The real thick scrub brush. There's paths and trails they'll use. Having said that, if there's something he needs, either to get or to get away from, it's just bushes. He just goes right through that. We've seen sharks chase, seals into the kelp.
Gotcha.
And kick up a bunch of water. We call it the salad shooter. And it doesn't happen often. Taylor Chappell, a researcher that I worked at with a lab, not with him on this project, but he did he got some footage of a shark milling around in the kelp beds, kind of verifying what people had, had a hunch and or had seen in the past. So yeah, that's not real. And I kind of think underscores, if these sharks wanted to get us, they'd be getting us every day, all day long, because they're right there in proximity. There's years of video. I don't show them that much because I don't want to,
scare people,
encourage people, as well to, it's scary footage. But, a lot of people see, the kayaking right next to the shark, cameras on them. It's like, yeah, the next guy's like, yeah, I'm going to do that too. And then you get this procession of people out there, and it's just not a good recipe for that.
Yeah.
You can do that 100 times. I don't know how many times. It only takes once for it to go wrong. And it's just, it really is kind of asking for trouble. Don't go, go to Yellowstone, you see bears. It's okay. They're over there. Have a look. Don't go walking over to them, blowing a whistle or something. Bear. There's people that have these things. You see video footage of that too, with moose running over the top of people. And maybe a closer analogy, kayakers have been advised in Monterey Bay to not get so close to whales, because whales aren't going to hurt you on purpose. But it's really cool to get a selfie right next to a big whale, back coming out of the water in your kayak, right? It got to the point where the National Marine Sanctuary Office had to say, hey, people, that's awesome. Don't you give them some room? You're going to get hurt. You're going to cause some problems.
Yeah, at the end of the day,
it happens.
At the end of the day, these are big, powerful creatures, and we're entering into their space and their habitat, so we got to be mindful of them and just respectful. Really, they're probably not going to attack anything, and it's super rare that this would ever happen. But just having a bunch of sharks that seem docile does not give us an invitation to go in and check them out a lot. That's just asking for more incidents.
Having whale watching boats and eco tours, I think, is valuable. It's a perfect fit. It's a perfect place to go, and a perfect, venue to educate the public while they're looking at these sharks, which you typically don't know much about. And so it's perfect for that. What we don't need is water skiing and jet skis and other kinds of stuff coming to, get their action in, kind of thing. And certainly we don't like sharks washing up dead. Now, there's a lot of talk about Shark Park, because that's the most easiest place to work and film sharks. This attack didn't happen at Shark Park.
So
I think that's very important.
Where would you define the area?
Yeah, the Shark Park's in what's called the Soquel Cove, right out in front of Sea Cliff, New Brighton State Beach. Some miles down the way, not too far away, another hot spot where we've always seen sharks, even prior to 2015, is where this surf spot is. The Trestles, La Selva, Manresa, Beer Can, Sand Dollar beaches. Those are all well-known, heavily surfed areas. Sharks contacting boards there is nothing new. What's sad is, we lost a good guy.
Yeah.
It happens. He wasn't doing anything wrong. I don't know what the shark was up to when it bit him. And it's just sad, but it's not unheard of. This isn't the first time. It's nothing new. But as the numbers of humans using these waterways increases, that includes small boaters. Remember, it used to be just boogie boards and surfboards. Now it's like paragliding and jet ski surfing, whatever. There's just a lot of different things to do out there. Most of it's good, but as those numbers increase, and you have these situations like, have an area where sharks are they're going to be there. They're every day. They've been there for the last 5 years. You may want to find another spot to go and intertube, And the surfers have been dealing with sharks for many years, and they kind of just come to terms, take their chances when they feel like it. A lot of them are intuitive about it.
Yep.
And that's the best I can surmise.
Yeah, so just be smart out there, guys. Like you're in their habitat, in their zone, You kind of play by their rules. You just be smart, look out, and be with a buddy or other people. So where can people go to learn more about your foundation and get some more information?
We're very, very active on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I just don't, I'm not in the habit of using it, kind of thing. So we're on Facebook, and we have a YouTube page where I'm the world's slowest editor. I'll get the stuff. Ernie Smith and or other drone pilots I've worked with will give me the videos. I'll edit it up, and then we'll pick certain sites to work at and fly the drone around and take photographs. I've worked with Monterey Bay drone. Sean Reynolds, well-known local surfer, got some of the very first drone footage from 2015, which is good. You can see sharks all over the place, just as you can now. My organization is the original sponsor of white shark protected status in California, which was accomplished in 1995-96 through California Senate Bill 522.
Wow.
Dan Hauser of Arcata, led that, walked that in for us. And Surfrider Foundation signed on. And so that was established not on the basis of any data proving they're endangered. That was on the benefit of the people who liked them. And Surfrider Foundation supported it because shark attacks are rare.
All right. Well, Sean, thank you for coming on here today and giving us a little bit more information about the sharks in this area and kind of what you do. We really appreciate that. And we hope that everyone out there will stay safe and respect these creatures that share, this ocean that we live close to and that we also like to enjoy, swimming and surfing in. So, thank you, Sean.
Yeah, under better conditions.